Deep within a bleak and dismal swamp, hidden beneath its murky waters, lies the headquarters of the most sinister villains of all time. The Legion of Doom.
Hey, welcome everybody. Oh, click the wrong thing. Every single time they make it too easy to click buttons.
It was almost a smooth intro.
It was so smooth. That's like the
really
smoothest it's ever been.
That was great. So, and then
we are notorious for having a bad opening for every single live stream. So
we interviewed Jim and I forgot to upload, I forgot to add the music track to the intro. So I click it and it's just this silent video. And I didn't realize that when it's a silent video, they don't mute you. So he goes he sings hit him with that intro. And it's like the best intro we've ever done.
I love it. Oh, I saw that Josh joined us for a second there when you clicked the Speedy Gonzalez.
One of our people in the chat yesterday was just kept talking about how Speedy Gonzalez from Looney Tunes was the real Flash, and the Flash was just ripping him off. So I was like, I should try to download a GIF of Speedy Gonzalez just to next time he mentions him,
Yeah. That's cool too.
But guys, for those of you who will be watching this later after the Omar stream, we have a very special guest. Okay, this is always a question I never had to ask. Do you prefer going by your real name's Mike, right?
It is, yes.
Okay, sometimes people are like, no, call me my YouTube name, and some people Jim was like, who's gonna know me as Steven? Everyone knows me as Jim. Do you prefer Mike, or do you prefer Comic Trove or Comic Trove?
I think Mike is more casual.
Okay,
we'll go with Mike.
That's what I usually think. But some people are like, no, call me by my YouTube name. I'm like, are we superheroes now?
Omar was like, call me the uncanny Omar. So
yeah, well, 15
I'm just Mike. I don't have an adjective.
Adjectiveless Mike. I like it.
Adjectiveless Mike, like Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man.
Which is right here.
Nice.
Hey.
I'm gonna grab it. That was an easy pull.
A book that I've always wanted to pick up just for the art.
Yeah, that's kind of it. It's one of those books where the art really is the best thing. If you're a McFarlane fan, you're gonna love that. The stories, I don't know.
I heard the story was but the art was pretty good, and then In Stock Trades had a stupid good sale. I think they paid me to get the book, basically.
It's worth having. I've got it and I'm happy to have it, but it's never going to make my list of best Spider-Man stories.
Actually, oh, go for it, Jake.
Oh, that's a good segue into one of our questions. So one of the things that we're finding as we grow our channel is that it's almost like we're like a Hollywood actor or something, where it's one for them, one for us. So our videos that really pop off and do well are top 10 DC omnibus for beginners, or top 10 Marvel omnibuses. And then we'll put our heart and soul into a book review, and it doesn't tend to do as well. So I've noticed on your channel, your most popular videos are top 10 DC omnibuses, top 10 Marvel omnibuses. Yes. Do you enjoy making those? Is that more for them and you enjoy the reviews more, or what's do you have any kind of difference in those types of videos?
I kind of like doing everything that I do, right? So everything I do is because I want to do it. I'll be honest, the way I kind of do this channel, it's always been first and foremost, something I wanted to do as a hobby. It goes without saying, I'm sure obviously I'm big into collected editions, big comic book fan. As the collection was built over time, I was watching more and more of the videos of people reviewing books, and I kind of thought, hey, I could do that. Everything that I review and I talk about is a book that I wanted to review and cover in that way. And it kind of goes for the same with the top 10 lists or the favorite lists, whatever. I've not done too many of those up to this point on the channel, mostly because I'm indecisive and it's hard for me to decide which are my favorite books out of a certain category. So if I'm looking at X-Men books or Spidey or Marvel or DC Omnis, it just takes me so long to kind of nail it down and pick the 10 I'm going for. But you're right. Those videos are the ones that have kind of performed best in terms of sheer views. But even so, I'm not in this to kind of collect views. If people enjoy those videos more, that's cool. But I will always do the solo book reviews, that's what I started doing.
The bread and butter.
I think, and I think that it's something that's good to do even if maybe less people watch it overall, I feel that they can be more useful for giving people a good oversight and insight into what those books are and whether or not they want to pick them up, or if they're out of print books, go on the hunt to search for them, in the wild.
I feel that, man. I mean, I'm at the point now where I'm like, how can I keep coming up with list concepts like 10 best DC books, 10 best DC Batman books, 10 best, like, you just start making the list more and more specified. And it's like the reviews are fun, I feel like, man, because like you get to share like your own thoughts about like the story that you loved, and like they're just like, really fun.
Dude, if there's one thing that Watch Mojo has ever taught me, is that there's no such thing as too many lists.
Yeah, they love their lists, man. I will do more lists at some point, but that's the other thing, is I don't have as many books as maybe some people think, and I don't have as many books as some of the other people's collections that I've seen on some of the channels. And like for example, I might want to do top 10 Hulk stories, and I don't have 10 Hulk books or whatever. For an example, I do have 10 Hulk books, but in some other cases, you know what I mean? Like I might not have as many books to cover to actually make a big enough list that makes it worthwhile.
So I haven't been collecting Marvel that long. I'm just really gross with my money. As you can see the Marvel side over here, I've only been collecting Marvel for about a year. So I've been collecting DC my whole life. So I did like top 10 DC books, top 10 DC absolutes. But with Marvel, I was like, hey guys, I'm not a Marvel expert. I've barely been reading Marvel. I'm going to do 5 Marvel books that I started with. These might not be the best because I probably don't own the best Marvel books, but these are like 5 books that this beginner started with. And people like 10 lists way more than 5 lists, I feel like.
And Jake's number one Marvel book was Marvel.
And that book is terrible. He is joking. That's like it's considered one of the worst Marvel comics of all time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know. I didn't quite know what to say to that one.
Oh, what's up? It's our newest mod all the way from Israel, the Unstoppable Bar.
Hey.
She bullied me into buying my first Harley Quinn book yesterday.
Oh, which book?
I bought Harleen, which I've heard nothing but good things about.
Jan Sejic. That one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a really good book. That's a good one.
It is a really good book.
Yeah. I highly recommend that one. I mean, you've already got it, but I recommend you read it now that you've got it.
Oh, thank you, John B.
Hey, John. Thanks, dude.
Yeah, thank you.
Whose do you like better? I mean, I'm just kidding. Obviously.
Definitely this one. You've got like Speedy Gonzalez running across at the beginning.
Wait, you want to see it? Boom!
Hey.
My favorite was when we had guests on. There's a TV show called BoJack Horseman where, like, long story short, like when he sees this guy, he's like, "What is this? Some kind of crossover episode?" Like a 90s sitcom. So that's my favorite one to play when we have other YouTube channels here.
Yeah, I like it.
Bullies you into making smart decisions and spending your money responsibly on good books.
I mean, that's bullying I can kind of endorse, really.
Right? It cost me a little more than Harleen would regularly cost because my girlfriend had this cat perch windowsill thing that you put on a windowsill for your cat to like look out the window. It was in the Amazon cart, and I was like, if I buy her the cat perch when I buy Harleen, I probably don't need to ask permission to buy Harleen. So it cost me one cat perch.
Nice thinking. Yeah, a good exchange.
So I guess another question would be, are you primarily omnibuses or just all collected editions? Like, do you have a preferred format?
Nowadays it's omnibuses. Yeah, kind of by far. It didn't start out that way. It started out just with buying a few trade paperbacks and things like that. And then at some point, I kind of stumbled across what an omnibus is, really. And the first one I ever bought was the Death and Return of Superman.
Ooh.
Not the printing you'll see now.
Was it the one that like cut out all the Supergirl stuff?
No, not well. No. For example, nowadays we got this one.
Yes, that's the one that I have.
That's had a couple of printings now. The one before this, I think it was a 2012 printing, and it had Superman on the front cover, kind of in the middle of the fight with Doomsday, with his costume all shredded. And that was the first one I ever got, and I kind of realized this is kind of amazing to have these huge books that have all this huge amount of content and full events and things like that. So that was the first one I ever bought. So obviously it was a DC omnibus first, and then I got into Marvel much more with the omnibus side of things than DC, and I started things off with this one.
Ooh,
nice.
I haven't read that one.
maybe my first, maybe my second Marvel Omnibus, but it was very early when I got that one, and it was the first one I ever reviewed on my channel on here. And that's kind of how I ventured into it, because I kind of thought between collecting big events like Death and Return and then being able to get these old comics like Amazing Spider-Man and Fantastic Four in this really nice format with the artwork's beautifully restored and everything looks pristine and nice like that. It's something that I kind of fell in love with as a collected edition format. So whilst I'm never going to cut off other kinds of formats, I'm not going to say I'm purely omnibuses and I will never get anything else. But they're the ones I prefer to get, generally speaking. But I do like to get, like oversized hardcovers and stuff like that as well. Not necessarily just the omnis.
More and more, yeah, I've been starting to enjoy the deluxe oversized hardcovers because, like, I just recently did a video on all the ways to collect Sandman, and like, I have the absolutes, which I love, but the deluxes looked gorgeous, and they opened up better than the omnibuses, and it's like, I was like, you know what, I got it, because I went through a phase of all omnibuses all the time, and I'm like, I need to start branching out and buying good stories that are standard size hardcovers or deluxes, I feel like I went through a phase of being like an omnibus elitist,
Yeah, I know what you mean. But I really like the deluxe edition format as well, especially the ones that DC do. Pretty much if DC call it a deluxe edition, it's an oversized hardcover. I like to get those as well. For example, I got the Long Halloween and Dark Victory, the Jeff Loeb's Batman stuff.
Dark Victory is my biggest whale. Like the absolute has never been in print since I've been collecting comics, and like I bought the omnibus because it was like wouldn't spend outrageous prices on the absolutes, but Dark Victory is my favorite, man.
It's a great story. But I really like those I had the omnibus as well, and I had trade paperbacks of them before that. So those are the stories I think I've bought more than any other. And just formats, the whole Loeb and Sale Batman stuff. But I really like those deluxe editions of those books in particular. I thought they were really nice. But yeah, like I say, it is primarily omnibuses that I get. But that's just because I kind of found my way into that. I was never really looking for them. I just found them.
That's what happens, man. Those trade paperbacks are gateways. John B, you're unboxing a haul. Tell us your favorite book in that haul. And then Barr said that Superman Omnibus is a beast. I can barely lift it. Yeah, but you're unstoppable, so you can lift anything, And hello, Joe Davidson.
What's up?
Thank you for watching, man. Okay, so I guess my next question would be, what was your original goal for the channel? And then what was like the first big milestone that you hit that you were like, wow, like this is starting to become maybe a little more than I thought it was going to be?
Well, it started out with no expectations, really, of it ever being anything other than something that maybe a handful of people might watch. And I thought it would be something that's just primarily fun for me. And I still kind of keep that philosophy in mind. If I am not feeling it for any reason, I don't force myself to put out content. That's why sometimes there are gaps between my videos of a week or 2 weeks, which is partially because I'm just busy doing stuff, but also because I try not to force it. I have always just hoped that the videos that I do would be useful / interesting to other collectors and people interested in whatever book it is I'm covering in that given video. The first big milestone that I reached where I thought, wow, this is pretty unexpected, this has kind of come somewhere now, was probably, the 1K mark for subscribers. When I hit that 1,000 subscriber mark, I was like, yeah, I never ever thought that was going to get to 1,000 subscribers. And that's nothing to some channels, to a lot of big channels, 1,000 is absolutely nothing in the big scheme of things. But it was a big deal to me, and it continues to be a big deal to me. And it's I'm very proud of it. I'm very pleased with it, and very thankful for the support that people gave me, because I've had a lot of great interactions with people in comments and messages and that sort of thing. It's been really cool to use it as an opportunity to interact with more comic book fans, like what's going on right now, with this conversation. It's been really nice to do that, because I don't know about you guys or other collectors, but for me in my own life personally, I don't really know that many people who are into comics all that much. And I think that I think there are other people in that same boat. So it's been great to like I say, to reach out in that way and speak to a lot more comic book fans and kind of get into this community, because there's a lot of great channels in the comic book collecting community now. It's just growing and growing, and it's great to see.
And what's nice at least is like, at least in the collected edition side, or at least the parts of the internet I've been on, I've been in other hobbies, or I've tried to get into other hobbies where I've just dealt with significant gatekeeping. Like at one point I bought like a smoker for meat to like learn how to make like pulled pork or ribs. Yeah. And everyone was like, if you don't do this recipe exactly, like you don't even know how to smoke meat. And like collected editions, I'm like, guys, I don't know where to start. And they're like, this, there's so many cool things to start with, you know?
Yeah.
So it's been a really accepting community.
Yeah. I think comics are really hard to get into. You know,
it's
like
really
when you
cool
do Sorry.
No, you're good. It's really cool to connect with someone.
Yeah, it is. It is. I really enjoyed it. That's the thing that I've enjoyed the most about doing all this.
War of the Kings. Have you read that one? I haven't read much of the Cosmic Saga. Or
you should. You should read the Cosmic Saga.
I know. It's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's so easy to like, when there's like a 1 or 2 or 3 Omnis in the series, but when you're getting up to like 5 or 6, I'm like,
I get it,
because I don't know how to not be a completionist. You know what I mean? Like,
I do. I know it very well. Yeah, you buy one volume, you got to buy all the volumes. Yeah,
and then some like I started buying the X-Men omnibuses because I've never read any X-Men, but I love the animated series growing up. Yeah, and then I was like, everyone was like, start with Uncanny X-Men. You don't need to read the originals. But then I was like, oh, but it's gonna look so weird missing 2 books. You know, so just the completionist in me can snowball. So,
I get it.
You go out and look for Annihilation, and then that Annihilation Conquest, and then we move into Road to War of the Kings.
Yep.
Someone complete this list because I don't know where else I'm going with it.
I think Road to War.
Then the War of Kings, and then Realm of Kings.
I think that is it.
Yeah.
Realm of Kings. That's what we're.
It's a lot.
Hold on. Let's do our due diligence really fast. And if you're looking at trying to buy any of the Cosmic Saga, you can check out our sponsor, Organic Price Books. If you want to save $2, you can use the code Brave Boys. Or if you're buying 3 or more together, you can use the code Brave Boys SIT, which is ship it together. I love finding the most awkward segue to.
You've got to love sponsor time,
right?
Kind of like the Wayne's World a bit, you know, where they do all the sponsors in Wayne's World.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah,
awesome.
The Cosmic Saga is really good, but I will say that everybody tells you to read the Cosmic Saga. It's like Marvel 101. What should I read? Everybody tells you the Cosmic Saga, and it is good. But I can't help but think that when there's that much hype around it, a lot of people are going to read it and think, I don't think this is the best thing ever. You know, it's good. It's obviously good. A lot of people love it. It is good. It deserves that. But I don't love it as much as a lot of people do. I'll tell you that.
I think sometimes I'm almost like obstinate where it's like a movie like The Godfather. Everyone's like, it's the best movie of all time. And I'm like, I don't really want to watch it. Or like Dark Knight Returns. Like everyone was saying, one of the best graphic novels of all time. And I was like, is it though? And then I read it and I was like, oh my God, Dark Knight Returns is amazing. And Jordan let me borrow the Absolute. I was like, this is one of the best stories I've ever read. And then there's half of the book left. And I'm like, there's more. And he's like, yeah, keep reading. And he had me go straight into Dark Knight Strikes Again, which was one of the worst books I have ever read. And he did that because he's a bad friend.
That was a trap that you led him into there.
Dude, it's a Thanos philosophy. It's balanced. You have to have the good and the worst.
Then that's probably the most balanced collection out there. It's by that, you know, by that
the
thing.
The best and the worst.
Yeah.
He's a bad friend. We started in a similar way where we were coworkers at a Best Buy, and we're from California, and we would talk about comics, and it was fun. At the time, we were more so weekly warriors with individual issues. But we transitioned pretty quickly into collected editions, and then COVID happened, and I was let go from Best Buy, and I had no one to talk to about comics anymore. So we just started Zooming each other because I needed to talk about someone at comics. And then we were like, what if we just record them and put them online, you know? And it snowballed from there.
Yeah. It's good. Yeah. It's like I say, I think it's that element of why not kind of invite more people to join your conversation, you know, put it online and invite the comments, you know, take that risk, you know.
I believe episode 1 is like us halfway into discussing just randomly comic books on Zoom, and
recording
Jay goes, okay, I'm recording this and we can upload it. I'm like, okay.
No
Okay,
intro, no outro. Like it was rough. And what I did was like I told myself I was like, okay, I'm gonna get really into this hobby of trying to create content, but I don't want to do what I normally do. Like I want to learn how to hike, so I buy expensive hiking boots and then I never use them because I get too into the hobby. So I said, if we do 5 episodes, I'll buy a microphone. So the first 5 episodes are just brutal audio. Hey FC, yeah, dude, my comic reading was a lot more during COVID. I got really into it during that time period. I think the whole world did.
Yeah, I think I probably read more books in kind of quick succession during those lockdowns than I think at any other point in my life. So I imagine a lot of people kind of had that same kind of experience.
What up, Bunkmaster B?
Junkmaster J.
One of our friends from the Near Mint Condition Discord.
Oh yeah, cool.
He's been getting me to buy a lot more indie books lately because I'm primarily big too, but Bunkmaster has a much more refined palate than me. So
yeah, I'm kind of the same. Not because of avoiding other stuff, but it's the big 3. It's money, time, and space.
Yes.
Where to put all these books?
I don't even know. I'm like trying to tell my girlfriend, I was like, I think I need to get a small little calyx, like a little 4-cube calyx for indie books. And she's like, no, you don't. You don't need any more bookshelves.
Yeah, she's the smart.
She is. I finally got her into comics recently. I got her into Something Is Killing the Children because she's a massive horror fan. Yeah. So we've been jumping around to different horror comics to try to find out, what she likes. Yeah. And it's been fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
The proudest moment of my life was after she read the first couple trades of Something Is Killing the Children. She asked if there was a better format for it. So she had me buy her the deluxe of Something Is Killing the Children. Nice. And I was like, you're one of us now.
Yeah. Join us.
Yes. Okay, so Jurassic League on IST is currently $14.49. What else do I need to buy to get the free shipping?
Ooh, that's a good question. You should buy Unbeatable Squirrel Girl because it's down to like $60.
Bugger off.
That's a brand new omnibus, isn't it? Squirrel Girl?
Yeah, it was normally 150, but these Marvel omnibuses have been getting. Oh, that's a good question. What websites or what avenues do you have for getting comics over on your side?
Oh yeah, so not as many. I'll tell you that, as you guys in the US have. So there's a few websites. I mean, like we've got Amazon here, the same, but I never trust Amazon to deliver big omnibuses.
Yep. You're going to get your omnibus the next day, but it's going to be beat to shit.
So, yeah, it looked like someone stood on it, stomped it, driven a car over it. But yeah, the main website I use is a retailer called Forbidden Planet. Okay. And it's like a proper comic book retailer over here. There's only really a couple of major online kind of actual direct market retailers. So I use them because they've got really good shipping. In my experience, everything's always well packaged. I never had a problem with a book being delivered in bad condition. So I kind of use them. And then for other types of books, there's a couple of other online retailers, just general book retailers that I've had some good experiences with. But there's nothing like sort of like you guys have things like organic price books and in-stock trades and cheap graphic novels. I don't know which of those are the best anymore because, they were never good options for me with the whole overseas thing. But I know that a lot of people liked those at one point or another in the past, each of those.
We're doing an interesting video maybe it's not interesting. I guess the viewers will tell us. But for me, it's interesting where I bought the same book from Amazon, a local comic book shop, organic price books, cheap graphic novels, and in-stock trades, and I'm comparing how long it took to get the book, the total price, the quality of the packaging, the user experience. So, and then I'll give away a couple copies of the book to some of the people watching. But like, I'm just curious, like, it's been interesting to see like what order they come in, and like, it'll be interesting to unbox them all at the same time to compare the quality of the packaging.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. It'll be interesting to see who comes out.
Right? Because at the end of the day, like, I don't want people to, because like, yeah, we make a small commission if someone uses one of our coupon codes for organic price books. But like, I'm not going to try to tell people only buy from organic price books. Anywhere else is terrible. You know what I mean? Like, I think
hold on,
they're great. Oh, I didn't click that again.
Bunkmaster had a great point. I need you to highlight that real quick. I heard organic price books is the best, and you can save with code Brave Boys.
But Bunkmaster, what if you're shipping 3 or more books together? Is there a better coupon code? Just kidding. Yes, IST takes like 3 weeks for me to get a book. So, but they have the most dramatic discounts. Like what I love doing is they have a damage section, which is like someone bought an omnibus and returned it. Usually they're in perfect condition because you know how finicky omnibus collectors can be. I bought tons of books on there and I've never got one that was actually damaged. But like, it's good. Like sometimes you'll look and they only have like 1 or 2 copies of the book, and it's just like I call it like fishing. Like I'll just refresh the page every now and then. And I was like, this book is $30 and it's normally like 60. Like, why not? You know,
worth the risk if the discount's good enough,
right?
Especially if it usually turns out fine. You know, one time I did actually buy a book from Organic Press Books, had it shipped over here because I could not find it here anywhere. Then right after I bought it, it turned up everywhere. But
that's right. That's how it happens. Like whenever I buy a trade paperback, that's when the deluxe gets announced.
Ironically, the book was Excalibur Volume 1, the Omnibus, Excalibur Omnibus. So the book that I can't find in the UK. It's the book that takes place in the UK with the UK team and everything. You know, weird irony.
That's funny.
I love it.
Yeah, right after I bought that, like I say, it turned up in every shop.
Oh, that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
When I first got into Marvel, I wanted to read and curate a really good collection of Marvel books, but like, so I was like, okay, I really want Ultimate Spider-Man 1 and I really want Thor 1 by Jason Aaron, because those are like 2 I've always heard are like one of the best runs of all time. More Ultimate Spider-Man Omnis were coming out this year. The new Thor was coming out this year. So I was like, I'm just going to pay out of print prices for Ultimate Spider-Man. See, that's the cover I wanted. That's one that Jordan has.
I always have this on hand, just in case he brings up.
You're like pulling books out of like every pocket right now.
I always have this to hand because it's bound to come up if I'm in any kind of conversation.
It's actually my current read right now. I'm 18 issues in and I'm loving it. It is so good.
It's really good.
But as soon as I paid out of print prices for them, literally a week later, Marvel was like, and we're reprinting them.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm never doing that again. No. I'm never doing it again.
No, and you shouldn't. I don't. It's I did it a few times in the past, buying out of print things. But yeah, it always comes back to bite you, especially with Marvel, because nowadays Marvel will reprint basically everything, I feel.
And I think that's what I didn't know, because I'm a DC fan where they'll leave like a book like one of the Nightfall books out of print for like how many years? Dark Victory's been out of print since I've been collecting comics, and like
DC are kind of a mess with their collected editions. It's sad. You know, I wish they weren't. You know, I would love them to be more kind of on it, but they don't seem to be.
I think it's just crazy that like every time that like they'll try to work with an influencer like on YouTube to like get some information, then the company gets bought out by another company. They fire the whole staff and the process starts all over again.
Yeah, it's strange. I don't know what those guys are doing. But if you look at, you know, the amount of omnibuses that Marvel release now, you know, more than ever, they're releasing so many now. DC release feels like 5 a year or something like that.
That's why I started collecting Marvel, was like after they basically gutted their entire collected editions department. There was not a single DC Omnibus announcement for the whole year. So I was like, am I really going to buy a whole year without spending on money on an Omnibus? And then I was like, nah, that's too smart. Let me just start collecting Marvel now and buy everything.
Yeah, that's it. That makes more sense.
Okay, so do I get Batman Fear State just the Batman run, or do I get the Fear State saga that has Batman, Nightwing, was it Batgirl?
I didn't really like Fear State, to be completely honest. I only read the Batman portions. I like how he's not even paying attention to the interview. He's just shopping.
He's just shopping. Yeah.
It's part of the process.
It's the whole process. Right? You know?
Yeah. I think you need to join us and buy the Spider-Man by Todd McFarlane book.
Yes.
Become one of us. I mean, it's not available. I think it was $18 when I bought it.
That's a really good.
I mean, at that point, how could I not get it? You know,
I don't think it's going to be unavailable.
Bunkmaster says you need to get the Ether Library Edition.
I couldn't find it. I could only find the Ether Omnibus, which is like a floppy one.
And then FC, hello FC. Oh, is that a Border Collie or is that an Australian Shepherd? What a cute doggy. The increase on Marvel Omnis is because older comics are better than what's coming out now. Oh, is that a question?
I think it's a question. It is a question. Yeah.
That's what question marks are for.
Yeah, the question mark is the giveaway. Yes.
Let me read it with a better inflection. Do you think the increase on Marvel Omnis is because older comics are better than what's coming out now? Let's discuss.
Yeah. That's it. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for watching, guys.
I don't think it's purely because of that, but I do personally enjoy older Marvel stuff than a lot of what they've done in recent years. Like there's some recent Marvel stuff that I really like. You know, I think you've already mentioned it, but Jason Aaron's Thor, which admittedly is a few years old now, but that was really good. Really, really enjoyed that. But a lot of the really recent stuff, like from the last 2 or 3 years from Marvel, I haven't really enjoyed that much. I think probably the most recent thing from Marvel that I really did like was the Maestro stuff by Peter David that he did. Those kind of origin stories for the Maestro a year or two ago, and those are coming out. Really liked those, but I don't know. Yeah, a lot of other things that I've tried to get into from very modern Marvel, very recent Marvel, I've kind of struggled with it.
I mean, I guess recent is a weird term though. Like, does recent mean 1 or 2 years? Does recent mean 10 years? You know, because there's what comics have been coming out since, I mean, how many decades? But I do read more modern comics, but I think the ones that I've read have been really good. Like I love Venom by Donny Cates. I thought that was good, and that's a run I would still consider kind of recent, right?
Yeah.
A little bit older, but I just finished Silver Surfer, and that book made me cry. Like by Dan Slott, like that one was amazing.
I've not read that.
Oh,
Dude,
it's so
you
good.
have to. It has like such a good like the story comes full circle. Like it is like. It was perfectly crafted. It has
Hold on, wait. Let me sell him on this. Do you like Doctor Who?
Not massively, to be honest.
I was gonna say it's basically
you racist piece of shit. You thought just because you
it's because I'm a British guy.
That's racist. He has direct access to BBC. I struggle for that here.
You know what? I think we should just link Jordan's review of non-spoiler, review of Silver Surfer. Right here, wherever the thing pops up.
There.
You know? Yeah. No, honestly, it's really good. So, I've never read a Silver Surfer. My only experience with him before was Marvel had an animated Silver Surfer TV show like forever ago. I watched as a child, but basically, he gets partnered up with a human companion, and they go explore the cosmos together. And she teaches him humanity and how to find like the beauty in little things, and like he becomes from this stoic hero to like a regular person and. It's really good.
I've heard good things about it. I always kind of liked the really classic Silver Surfer, the original series with Stan Lee and John Buscema's artwork. And I like how he spends that entire series and a lot of his publication history just kind of lamenting his own existence. He's this kind of tortured soul, he's like,
oh, you're right. So him like moving past that would ruin him for you. So maybe don't read.
Maybe I don't want to see any character growth in the Silver Surfer. I like him to be miserable.
So what got you into comics in the first place? Have you read them your whole life? Was there a period in your life when you started reading them a lot more?
Yeah. So I didn't get into them as a kid like a lot of people did. It's not like I was reading them for pretty much my whole life. I always liked superheroes, like as a kid I always liked Spider-Man, Batman, but it wasn't really from comic books. It was kind of everything else. It was like movies, it was TV shows. Like back then it was like the Batman animated series, the X-Men animated series, and then they'd be in video games and things like that. So you had like the PS1, PS2 Spider-Man games that came out in the late 90s, early to mid 2000s, and I kind of loved all that. And then I kind of watched the films, and then when I got into my teenage years, I sort of started to read a few comics then, because I kind of thought, I've always thought superheroes are cool. I've always liked them. I'm finally going to go back to the sort of source material and see where all this came from. And I picked up a few books then. When I was young, I read, I think one of the first comics I read was a trade paperback collection that my dad bought for me of the Dark Phoenix saga. I was probably about 10 or 11 when I read that. And then it was a very slow process of over the years. I'd maybe read a book or two, a random comic book or two a year. And then at some point when I was already about, 22, 23, it started to click and I sort of started to get it, and I started to read a few more. it all really started with buying a few Batman books.
Ooh.
I kind of bought a lot of the big ones that everybody knows and recommends. So I got things like Year One and The Dark Knight Returns and Long Halloween, Dark Victory, Hush, a few other things, I'm sure. And then I just kind of really was getting an appetite for it, and I kind of, every time I finished a book, I needed something new to read. And for a while, that was just Batman. It was like, I want to read the next Batman story. What else do people recommend? What's good? And then it sort of branched out from there, and I started to read other things. And, it kind of just snowballed from that point onwards. I picked up a book and then I got another book. And then before I knew it, I had like a whole collection of things. And then I was upgrading things from trade paperback to hardback and to omnibus. So I've only been kind of seriously into collecting for, well, probably about 8 years now, 9 years all in all.
Batman is such a good gateway, though. I feel like
Yeah.
Batman, you start with Batman and then you move on to harder comics,
Yeah.
So, but were you like, did you have a preference? Like, were you more? I know you read a lot of Batman, but like, were you DC for a while and then switched to Marvel, or did you kind of go back?
Yeah, I mean, I was DC almost exclusively for quite a while because the New 52 worked really well for me as a new reader. I was there at the right time for that to begin, and I know a lot of people resented the New 52, and in hindsight, I understand why. For people who'd already been reading DC for years up to that point, the idea of what was then a big reboot to undo a lot of what had happened before kind of pissed some people off, and I get that. But I was just kind of the right audience for it, so it allowed me to get a good introduction to a lot of other DC characters beyond Batman who I didn't really know. And once I had the familiarity with them that I gained from reading those books, then I kind of went back and explored pre-New 52 and kind of got into a lot of older DC. Mm-hmm. And then I went over to Marvel, and I thought, okay, I've got a lot of DC under my belt now. Let's check out a lot of the Marvel comics. And funnily enough, I kind of went the opposite way with that, where I started with recent modern stuff with DC. Marvel, I went kind of right back, and I got, like I think I already said, Amazing Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 1, like going right to the Silver Age with a lot of these characters and sort of starting from the beginning with a lot of them, really. I kind of did it the opposite way around.
I'm trying to get better at enjoying like Silver Age comics and that kind of stuff, but like sometimes I feel like I can read a modern omnibus way faster. Like it just reads way faster.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Versus like the older ones, I feel like I'm reading like a prose novel sometimes.
Yeah, there's a lot of text. It's a very text-heavy stuff usually when you're going back to those older books. But it's I've seen people say that they actually prefer that because they feel like they get more for their money because it takes them longer to read it. You're getting more word count for your money.
Yeah. That Planet of the Apes omnibus is worth it at that point.
that one looks terrible, dude. 11 issues for $100.
That's an odd collection and a really steep price for it,
I've heard them try to backpedal a little bit and say that it was because of all the cost of the restoration of it. Right. But I mean, what do they think? I mean, that's not an omnibus, that's a deluxe.
Well, that's 11 issues, and it doesn't really work, that logic, because a few years ago now, I don't know if you remember these collections, but Marvel released 4 omnibuses called Timely's Greatest, Golden Age, Simon and Kirby. Mm-hmm. What else was there? Submariner and Human Torch, and they were like meticulously restored. And we're talking about books from the late 30s and early 40s here, and they looked unbelievably good. The art restoration that went into those was incredible. Really, really loved the way that they looked. But they were much thicker books, but they were only about the same price as this Planet of the Apes omnibus.
It's weird to see that quality of Marvel change because I had a friend who got me into comics when I was in high school, and he was really generous. He would loan me books. Like he loaned me the Daredevil by Bendis omnibus, and I remember it being like the biggest comic I had ever seen. And then years went by, I collected DC, then I got into Marvel and I rebought the Bendis omnibus, and it was way smaller than I remember it being. And I was like, was it just like my concept of size of books have changed? And then I realized Marvel just uses pages that are so thin now that like a DC omnibus looks giant by comparison. And like,
they do. They do look huge.
It's weird. I mean, I'd rather them do that than keep raising prices, but like they in a way still are raising prices because the books are thinner. Like sometimes the iMac ones like smell terrible when you open them up, like they smell like ink. But it's just interesting.
It is, and at least DC now seem to have found a better balance with their binding. You know, I don't know if you.
Right, dude. The binding used to be terrible.
It used to be so bad, you know, and now they've kind of got that sort of nicer, thicker paper, and the binding seems to be generally a lot better than it used to be.
Yeah.
So I think they do kind of feel better. The thin pages in the Marvel books, they don't bother me like they bother some people, but they are kind of noticeably getting very thin now. And you kind of think to yourself, these can't get any thinner, you know, without.
They'll find a way. They'll find a way.
As you turn the pages if they get any thinner than this, you know?
Dude, soon it's going to be a selling point. Our page is so thin, they're 50% the size of they used to be.
Well, I mean, it is nice because like you look at some of those early like Marvel Omnis that were so thick, and it's like now you can fit 3 books or 2 books on your bookshelf in the space of that one book. So
that's the
maybe
selling
they're doing
point
a service for us, you know. What's up, Zach? Thanks for checking us out today, man.
Hey.
You should go check out our friend Comic Book Trove. So I made the thumbnail, and then because I thought your name was Comic Trove, that's what I've always said. And then I was like, wait, no, he's the Comic Book Trove. So I tried to make that fit on the thumbnail.
Oh, it's basically the same. It's all good.
Oh, this is our friend Paul. What's up,
Hey,
Paul? Thank you so much. We actually have, I think, 502. So we hit the 500 milestone yesterday on a stream. So I made this little graphic.
Yeah.
You know, and like you said, for some people that's considered nothing, but for us, we're proud of it, you know?
Yeah, and you should be. You know, it's no small thing as far as I'm concerned. I think it's really cool to think that you have 500 people, 502 people, let's get it right, who want to see stuff, want to see what you do. You know, I think that's really
shout out to Paul. Go check out his new video where he visited Nowhere, the pop-up shop that Guardians of the Galaxy has.
Heck yeah. We love people checking out our friends' content. This is a good question. I love the Absolute Swamp Things. Jordan has the trade paperbacks. I love the quality of them, but do you have have you seen them? Do you have a preference on the coloring, like the recoloring? Like, do you like in general, or have you seen them before?
Here's another thing that I don't tend to be too bothered by recoloring in a lot of cases, just in general. Like, it depends on specifically what you're talking about, but overall, I think it's nice if you can kind of get both in a collection like that. You know, like they did,
like a year one.
Like year one, I think Killing Joke, did the same thing. You know, because I know there was a coloring thing with that. But I don't know. Sometimes it looks better, sometimes it doesn't. You know, I think the biggest example that comes to my mind is the Thor by Walter Simonson. That omnibus is kind of well known for being recolored, and which is a bit of an oddity for Marvel omnibuses because I don't know of another one off the top of my head where the whole book like that was changed and the colors were completely modernized and redone for an older comic from Marvel. But I always like that recoloring on that book. You know, I really like it, in fact. I think it looks great. But I know that a lot of people really don't, you know, because they want to see the original colors and that's what they're used to. It's what they want. And I get it, but it's just not something I ever had a problem
with.
Yeah, not really, no.
And maybe that stems from the fact that, like, in general, in the grand scheme of things, all of us here are more recent readers. You know what I mean? Like, we've been collecting for 8 years versus someone that like, I mean, I guess it might bum me out if I bought the original issue and it doesn't look like how I remember it. But like for me, like when we were comparing the different Sandman editions, I bought a facsimile edition of Sandman #1, and that was and it was the original coloring, and I was like, this Loki looks terrible in comparison to the recoloring of Sandman. I read Swamp Thing and I think it looks really good, and like I don't really have a beef with that, you know. But then you get some books like if you ever watch the channel Omnidog's Vault. He talks about the recoloring of like some of the classic Neil Adams Batman, and it does look pretty terrible in comparison. So
yeah, actually, I didn't think of that. The Neil Adams Batman stuff, I actually do know that. Yeah, that doesn't look very good. The recoloring. Actually, that one is a good example. I don't like that. Yeah,
but most of the time, like I don't know. Maybe I should care, but I don't. Like, it's for me, I want to read and enjoy the story. And if it makes it easier to see, like, I'm happy with it, but
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, is my girlfriend actually watching the channel? Quick, don't mention that I
I
bought
just-
anything. I'm just kidding. I actually didn't buy anything this stream.
Actually, I'm the one that's
sometimes
looking to buy something.
There's sometimes she'll text me and she's like, "Why are you talking about trying to buy something?" And I'm like, I swear I'm not buying anything.
I promise I won't.
I'll be good.
I do have a question for Comic Trove. Hey dude, so I'm looking to buy Greg Pak's Hulk.
Oh yeah.
What cover should I get? Should I get the stock one or the DM variant? Because Jake has
buy that over
the
Planet.
DM one.
Oh, you mean Planet Hulk? Okay.
Yeah.
So
Jake has that one.
That's the one I have. That's the one
I'm
I've
going.
got. Planet
I like
Hulk
both.
Yeah, both are actually good, to be honest. But I mean, Planet Hulk is such a good story. Have you read Planet Hulk?
I have.
You
So
have.
Yeah, I read it as a trade. And then I kept insisting Jake to buy it when the Omnibus came out, and he has got it and read it, and he said it's good, just you overhyped the fuck out of it.
I think the problem for me is that I worked from home one day, so I was just taking calls and chats. I work in high-end audio sales.
Okay.
And I sat there and I just read in like a one shift all of Planet Hulk in one sitting. And I think when you binge a comic sometimes versus like it taking a couple days to get through, it maybe has less of an impact. But I think on a purely selfish reason, man, most of the time me and Jordan buy this like different covers just by happenstance, but it will look nicer if we do a deep dive on the video, if we can show B-roll of both covers,
Yeah, but also the thing about getting the different covers is it's about what's in the book, far more than it's about the covers. In the case of Planet Hulk, I do prefer that arena cover with him in the gladiator combat gear, I really like that story though. I could go off on a segue and just talk about how great Planet Hulk is, but
do it. We would love to hear it. I haven't read World War Hulk yet. I hope that Omnibus. I don't know if it's supposed to get a reprint soon or if it's already been announced, but I haven't read World War Hulk yet.
Hasn't been announced as far as I know. I feel it's inevitable. It will be. I feel very sure. I can't imagine it not being reprinted again. Here's the thing, though. World War Hulk is such an anticlimax after Planet Hulk. Now, if you didn't like Planet Hulk that much, I really don't think you'd like World War Hulk anymore, because I won't spoil it for anybody who's not read it, because you know how that ending is in Planet Hulk. It's a good ending in a way. I mean, it's good is a loose term, but it leads directly into World War Hulk and this idea of the Hulk kind of coming back and he's out for revenge and all that. It's bigged up so much in the premise, but then there's no payoff in that story for me. Here's the thing as to why, because in Planet Hulk, we have him shot off into space to the planet Sakaar, and Hulk's up there with a bunch of brand new characters created just for that story, So pretty much Greg Pak could do whatever he wanted in that story, to a certain extent. He could kill off characters and do whatever he wanted to with any of them without there being any repercussions to the Marvel Universe as a whole. As soon as Hulk comes back to Earth and he's fighting Avengers and other major Marvel players, he can't just kill Captain America or Iron Man, you know what I mean? Like, that's not going to happen. So
that's a really good point.
He can't do a lot of what he's seemingly going to do. So you get a story where not a huge amount of things really happen in World War Hulk is kind of how I felt about it.
I guess that brings up an interesting question. Do you think continuity, like this intense continuity, helps or hurts stories? Because if I look at what I consider the greatest comics of all time, they usually don't really have that much place in continuity. There's kind of standalone evergreen stories. Like I think DC is famous for like those evergreen stories that kind of like, and like I love Silver Surfer and it was its own thing. It didn't have to worry about continuity really. Or Planet Hulk was really good and he was off doing his own thing. Like, does continuity help or hurt stories?
I honestly think the answer is a little bit of both sometimes, but I think that it's definitely a constraint, like I just kind of touched on there with the World War Hulk thing, because it definitely puts limitations on what writers and creators can do, when you've got to maintain a kind of constant status quo. I think Spider-Man's another good example of that. If we look at the last 20 years of Spider-Man, pretty much since One More Day, and this idea that for whatever reason, Marvel seemed to insist on keeping Peter Parker's life in the same.
He can't get married. He can't have a kid.
Exactly.
I saw a photo. If you see the new trailer for Into the Spider-Verse, where he has a kid and he's a dad, it's like what Marvel's editor's biggest fear.
Yeah. Well, it seems to be, doesn't it? It's like they don't want to let that character grow for whatever reason. They forcibly reset him. And now I haven't even read the very recent kind of Amazing Spider-Man stuff, but I've seen people talk about it. I've seen bits of it kind of pop up online where MJ is in a relationship with some guy called Paul or something like that. And I'm like, who's this Paul guy? Like, what's going on? And maybe
that's
I should read.
That's what every Spider-Man reader really wants to read about is Paul. He's the real character.
Yes, we all want to know
that we're buying the comics for.
We only want to know about Paul.
Well, it's not just she's in a relationship with him. She also has kids with him.
Oh
are they
my
actually
God.
kids?
So
are they actually his kids though? Is that the story?
you have to read to find out.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Don't make me read.
He's got to wait for the omnibus. Who knows how long that's going to take?
Years for this one. But I've read only up to, I think, issue 12. I have up to 24. I just haven't set myself on the goal to read it yet.
Well, I found it frustrating.
It's okay.
I think that's what's making Ultimate Spider-Man such a fun read for me. Is that
I mean, almost all Spider-Man comics are kind of frustrating, right? You're like, oh, he's so close to achieving something. So.
Yeah, I mean, historically, Peter Parker's always the kind of hard look hero, isn't he? He's always the put upon guy. He's got that old Parker look, and I get that that's part of the character, but it really seems right there. Just refusing to let this guy ever be happy to an unbelievable extent these days,
That's funny. I think that's what's been so refreshing about Ultimate Spider-Man, at least, is that it's familiar continuity, but it's its own thing. So it's not like I had to go back and read 30 years of comics to get to this point,
Yeah. No, I think Ultimate Spider-Man is such a strong series for many reasons. One of them being how accessible it is. Like you say, you don't need to know anything really when you go into it. It's very easy to follow. I don't personally think that Brian Michael Bendis has ever written anything better than Ultimate Spider-Man. I think his character work in that story is just so strong. Every character has an arc throughout that series. And there's never a moment that cuts away from the Spidey action to deal with some side characters where you feel, oh, can we just get back to Spider-Man, please?
We've had enough of Paul. Let's go back to Spider-Man.
Yeah, everyone's interesting. Everybody in the series has interesting moments. So even if you're going into an Aunt May scene, Aunt May in the classic Spider-Man is such a boring, frustrating character. But Ultimate Aunt May is much more interesting.
She broke my heart. Like, he comes home in one issue and she goes, Peter, do you like me as a person? And I was like, oh my God, go hug your aunt.
Exactly. It's got these beautiful emotional moments. I just think, and again, that comes back to what we talked about before with the lack of continuity constraints, because this was set in its own continuity, separate to the main Marvel universe. So there was a lot more scope for Bendis to do different things with these characters. And that
brings up a good chat right here, which is, being a fairly new comic reader, continuity is something I've never understood. In manga, for the most part, there's a story from beginning to end. For comics, I don't know where to start reading.
Yeah, and that's a big thing, I think, that's probably confusing and or intimidating to new readers who want to get into reading, especially things like Marvel and DC. Where do I even start?
If only there was a YouTube channel like us that made top 10 DC Omnibus for beginners and top 5 Marvel Omnibus. Nice little shameless plug.
But that's why it's a good thing that kind of stuff that you guys and other channels do, because I think it's invaluable to people who want to get into this kind of thing. And it was invaluable to me, and it continues to be, because I've not read every book. I'll never claim to be the ultimate comic expert, because I never will be. But so I'll always be watching other people's videos on one thing or another to gain some insight into something.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of what got me really into the YouTube portion of comic books was I read Deadpool by Daniel Way, and I was like, dude, I'm so lost on what's happening. Let me do some research into it. And then I stumbled upon like Rob from Comics Explain, Sal from Comic Pops, who talked about individual stories. And I'm like, oh, cool. Now I can actually like understand what's happening in these issues or this is something next to read.
Yeah, sure, exactly.
Who were the comic book YouTubers? I mean, we've talked about Omar, but were there more than Omar that were kind of your inspiration?
Well, it was mainly Omar. Name and condition. That channel is just fantastic. I think a lot of people who get into collect editions are inevitably going to discover name and condition. And the other big one was probably Gem Mint. I think back when I first started watching these channels, which will be, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, probably something like that now. Those were kind of like the big two that really took off. And I think, even now, I think those two are kind of far ahead of all the rest of us. Yeah, so those were the ones that I kind of followed. Yeah, and I think that Near Mint is now really great. What Omar gets to do with announcing all the releases coming up. I think that's incredible.
And he gives a voice to us, I feel like, you know what I mean? Like he's the bridge between the collected editions department at Marvel, which is something that DC is lacking, is that Marvel, Omar can be, let's do a reprint poll. Let's talk about, I had this opinion on a book, versus like it just being like silence like we get from DC,
Yeah, I think what Marvel really needs to do is to reach out to a UK-based comic book collector who maybe has a YouTube channel, and he could be like Britain's Omar or something like that,
Seriously, Britain. I think you should change your name in the little
Omar
yellow
can
from
have
Comic Book Trove to British Omar.
Oh, yeah. That could be the new name.
Omar can have Marvel. We can have DC here for the US, and you can cover the UK side. So
yeah,
we got a big portion of the world at that point.
Exactly.
I almost don't want it though, because I don't know as much. At the end of the day, I only know what I know, and I feel like there's better people for the job. But I would still have fun with it, with that job.
Right.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think we all would. It'd be a great thing. But it's cool. It's really cool that Omar gets to do it. It's what makes that channel so great in many ways. Is the access to things that he has. Plus, his knowledge and enthusiasm for comics is great. That's why I've always enjoyed his channel, and it's, like I say, a big reason why I started to do this. Because I thought, I'd like to add my voice to it as well. Not to compete, but to be able to just join in, and just share my own thoughts in that way.
This is a good question. So I had heard about that story before. I think it came out a long time ago. Rick Grayson was one of the things I hated. Like I've read all of Nightwing up until that, and I read all of Nightwing since, and Nightwing since has been amazing. Do you know about about Rick Grayson or what the original plan was for it? Have you heard of this before?
I don't know about this, to be honest. No.
Okay, so Tom King. Have you read the Tom King Batman run yet, or have you not read it?
I'm not up to it. No, that's another thing. I'm yet to get to it.
Okay, so in it, Nightwing, I won't spoil anything, but Nightwing does get shot by the KG Beast. And originally Tom King had a pitch for about 15 to 20 issues, he was going to get vertigo and not be able to be Nightwing and have to kind of build himself back up. And Tim Drake was going to step up and be Nightwing. And it was supposed to be a really cool story. And that was going to just be 15 to 20 issues. And DC said, nah, how about he gets amnesia? He starts calling himself Rick Grayson. And for 2 years, he's not Nightwing.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound great.
No, it is definitely not.
As soon as amnesia gets brought into a storyline, that's usually a red flag.
Are we watching soap operas? It's terrible.
Yeah.
But that would have been so cool to see Tim Drake step up as Nightwing. I would have loved to see that. But if you want to read something that's more recent, Tom Taylor's Nightwing one is giving me hope and faith in DC. It's one of the best things I've read in a long time. And if we had to get through Rick Grayson to get to how good Nightwing is now, I'll take it. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. Sometimes you got to suffer through the bad to get the good.
You got to take your medicine.
Yeah.
So I did place my order.
Ooh, what did you get?
So I got Jurassic League, which I'm looking forward to read because I haven't read any of it. I did end up picking up Greg Pak's Planet Hulk. I did go with the standard cover only because I'm not decisive on which version I wanted. Plus, if we ever do a review, we can have both covers. And then the last one I got was Fear State from Batman, just because I need to continue on my. I can't show, where is it? Down there. My Batman run. So
Cool.
I look forward to receiving that package in like 2 weeks or so.
Or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. But I mean, you got plenty to read in the meantime.
Oh, I have so much. Like right now I'm in the middle of I showed it last night, but I'm in the middle of Invincible. You can see my bookmark. And then I still have
looks like he froze.
Savage Monsters. So
He's back.
I'm always here.
Just so we know, man, I know it's getting late over there. How much time do we have left with you?
I can do another 10, 15 minutes.
Cool.
If that's cool.
Just for like a fun behind the scenes question for us, what's like your process, or what's the timeline, or what, like, how long does it usually take you to read a book and then making the video side of it? Like, is it like what's your process?
So a lot of the videos that I've done were just books that I read at some point in the past, so because I had been reading for a long time before I started doing this. So when I started doing this, I had a pretty big backlog of books I could kind of jump right into and review, cover at my pace, at my, going through them as fast as I wanted to, but I would say generally, if it's something I haven't read before, it would probably take me, if it's an omnibus, more often than not, just finding the time to read them these days, a couple of weeks maybe to read through one, and then maybe another week or so to find the time to record a review and edit it a bit and upload it. So probably, if it's something brand new, like maybe 3 weeks overall. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like I don't, my channel is, by my own admission, not one of the flashiest channels. I don't do a lot of the things like the extra stuff that a lot of people work on, like that really draw out the process of uploading a video. And I fully admire and respect the people that do that stuff. I just struggle to find the time to kind of do the basic stuff that I do as is. So yeah, I think that my workload, like the stuff that I do to put a video together and upload it, is probably a lot simpler than what a lot of other people do. So, but we'll see. You never know. In the future, I might jazz things up a bit.
I try to add one new thing to each video just so I can learn the skill of editing. So it's like, I remember the first time I learned like how to show a picture of a comic book like panel, but make the photo like move or like zoom or like add motion to it. I was so excited because I was like, and now I'll watch other people's videos and stuff, and I'm like, oh, I know how they did that, or I know how they did that, and it's like, it's interesting,
The thing is, like, and this is sort of this is the problem, as I really, really don't like editing. Like, I really hate it. I try to minimize it. I try to do things in as fewer takes as possible, and even if I kind of stumble over something a little bit in a video and I'm thinking I could edit that out and redo it, and I was like, but that I don't want to, so I'll just keep it in. I'm just, I guess, lazy with the editing side of things / not very good at it.
I don't know what this question means. I just got here and only have one question. Did Nightwing really always blocked it? I don't know what that means.
I'm not sure.
I mean, we can all agree that Nightwing has the best butt in comics, though, right? That's famous knowledge, right?
Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
There's nobody really close. You got Nightwing at the top, and then the next one would be like somewhere down here. I don't even know.
Yeah, maybe Juggernaut or something.
Yeah, Juggernaut probably could close second. Or the Blob.
Never considered Juggernaut.
Block it. And Damien says Nightwing always blocks it. I mean, well, if Damien says that, it has to be true.
That is law. That is correct.
Nightwing inspires me to work out. Heck yeah, he does, man. They should come out with Nightwing workout videos. What did Marvel just announce? It's like a new jogging app where like they'll read you like a Marvel comic book in your ears as you jog, and I'm like, that's so interesting.
I had no idea, but I thought you were going to say it was like Steve Rogers giving you motivational quotes to keep running.
Oh my god, I need that. I need the Steve. I need the Steve cheesy workout video.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yes,
that's awesome, man. Do you want to plug anything for your channel before we end it, or is there anything you want to plug?
I hadn't really thought that far ahead. Not really. It's just a simple case of, the videos are there. Feel free to check them out. I've always just said it'd be cool if they're able to be helpful, insightful for anybody. So yeah, And
And for those of you watching, we linked his channel in the description of the video, so you guys should all go check it out.
Thank you. Yeah.
Like I said, what I love about your videos, man, is that like there's not 30 minutes of preamble before you start the review. So like it is like straight to the point. Like
yeah, well, that's all I ever.
Like you cut all the fat off of it.
Yeah, well,
he's subbed to you. Look at that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Heck yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, this was a lot of fun, dude. I hope you enjoyed it.
I did. It'd be cool to do it again, maybe sometime.
Of course, man. We would love that. Like I said, I just like making more friends to talk to about comics. Like it's just fun.
You know, I think it's great to do. I think, like I said to you guys at the beginning, you know, it's not something I often get opportunity to do. Like in my own life, there aren't that many friends of mine or, you know, family friends who are really into this to the extent that I am. So to do something like this, I mean, this hour has kind of flown by, you know, it's just, it really has been genuinely fun. It's been cool.
That's awesome, and we appreciate it. Well, we'll just say one last time, if you guys want to buy any of the books that we talked about, you can check out our sponsor, Organic Price Books. You can use the code BRAVEBOYS to save $2 at checkout, or if you're shipping 3 or more books together, you can use BraveBoys SIT. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Keep reading and stay brave. Bye, guys. Bye, everybody. Bye, guys. Thanks for watching.
Bye, guys.